You're wasting your time creating content in 2026. Let me run you through a few of the big things I'm seeing as we're speaking in real time in coaching businesses, service-based businesses, with content, with social media, with Instagram, that are going to massively help you about the algorithm, about AI, about sales in general, and how you can use that to leverage your coaching business. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, you're like, should I trust this guy? Like, why should I trust him? I've helped hundreds of coaches. I've reviewed thousands of coaching businesses. I've helped hundreds of my clients start, build, scale their businesses using social media and having a predictable system in the back end, a system that's helped them close and generate over £2.5 million in sales for their businesses. So I probably know a thing or two about social media. I've also been in the space for 10 years now. If you scroll back, you can see videos of me filming content, learning this stuff, figuring this out 10 years ago, when you can post videos on Instagram, and it's really changed since then. So there's a few big things I've learned, a few big things I'm seeing, so I'm going to run you through all of this in this video today. The first biggest reason most people are wasting their time with content and creating content on social media right now as we speak in 2026 is because they're simply creating content that they feel like they should be creating. They're going on the explore page, they're going on Instagram, doing this, they're just scrolling, and they just find stuff on there to talk about, right? They just find topics to talk about. The biggest problem with doing that is, one, you get annoyed and stressed and triggered and you get overwhelmed because you've just consumed hundreds, thousands of different pieces of information, and you're kind of like, what should I talk about today? Where should I take my content today? What kind of topics, what kind of ideas should I talk about? That's not a predictable, sustainable, and safe and fun way to build a coaching business. Instead, what we want to do with our content, if we want it to be predictably generating sales and leads, is have 2 to 3 big pillars and topics we're going to stick to and be seen as the expert in one industry, in one field, and that's when we can grow. I have clients in so many different industries and so many different spaces and niches, but one of the biggest reasons they crush is because they're just the expert and the market leader, and they become the market leader and the authority in just one space, and they just dominate that one space. And if you can just take 1% or 5% of that entire space, they have a business making 10K, 20K per month online, working from their laptop, working from anywhere. I would take that business with less stress than this one. So there's a few big things here to look at, right? So that very first thing we need to do is have the content pillars that we're just creating content about. What are the few topics, the few ideas that we're going to just really hone in on, give lessons to, and solve problems about? If we do that, content becomes so much easier. So what are the few categories that you're going to talk about? So as an example, if you help busy mums lose their first 5 kilos, that's an example video, or as an example audience and offer, you might have a few different categories that this audience needs help with to achieve that goal. One could be training. One, like, part of the thing you want to help people with could be the training part, right? The second part could be the nutrition, and then the third part could be the mindset, as an example. So all your short form, all your Instagram content then becomes, you have this problem with your training, here's what you need to do. If you have this problem with your nutrition, here's what you should do. If you're struggling because you can't do this, you're not feeling accountable, or you're like losing motivation, here's the accountability process you need to stick to it. And you just hammer every day. You just hammer these 3 pillars. You just create on Monday one, you talk about one pillar, on Tuesday the next, on Wednesday the next, and you just repeat that cycle. It becomes way easier, so much easier. That's the first thing. And the second thing is almost like leaning into AI too much with your content. If you're someone that's using AI right now for everything in your content, like the basic AI, it's just going to sound the same as everyone else. It's not going to be interesting. It's not going to be fun or unique because thousands of other coaches in a similar space to you are already doing this. You should use AI for your content, for your ideation process, but you first need to build it in a way and train it in a way that it understands who you are, what your story is, what your backstory is as well. It understands all of these. It understands your character type and your personality traits. And once it understands all of these things, that's when it can give you better content, more specific, more personalized content. And you also shouldn't create content in 2026 if you're wasting your time with content as well in general. If you're creating content, that's just information. That's just giving tips, giving value. Here's 5 tips to do this. How to do why. How-to videos as a format were viral 10 years ago. 12 years ago, how-to videos were going viral. Since then, millions of people have created this format, and people can now go on AI and ChatGPT and say, I have this problem, how do I solve it? And they can get the information in seconds. It's just boring, it's just done, it's been repeated many, many times. So the how-to videos, the information videos are just going dead. They're already dead, they've been dead for a while. And this is why your engagement is going down and down and down in the gutters. Instead, we don't want to create content that's just information. We want to create content that's more, and this is, if you don't want to waste your time with content, with social media, if you don't want to waste your time, stop creating content. So, like, let me paraphrase. If you don't want to waste your time with your content, do this instead, right? If you don't want to waste your time with your content, instead of creating so much content that's just giving tips and sharing how-tos, instead of that, what you want to do instead is give content, create content as super specifically doing one thing, is super specifically also getting people to feel seen, understood, heard. If you do that with your content, the back end becomes so much easier, right? The sales become so much easier. Get people to feel seen, understood, connected to your message, to your offer, to your audience. Everything will become infinitely easier. So don't just create content about information, but create it more specifically about like getting people to feel understood, feel connected to you, and feel heard about the problems they have. How much stronger is a piece of content if it's this instead? If you have like a particular problem, right? How much stronger is this piece of content for your audience, right? And as a system, how much stronger would a piece of content be if you have kids and you never have time for yourself? I get it. I understand. I was there too. It's not your fault. Here's what you can do to solve that. If people can feel understood, if people can see that you understand their pain, their problems, that things that stress them, that keep them anxious, that get them to feel stressed, overwhelmed, all of these different things, they're infinitely more likely to want to work with you down the line as well. If you just make those changes with your content, you're going to stop wasting your time with social media, with content. You're going to be able to use your content to actually be a system that actually grows your business, rather than just creating content that just disappears into the void and no one knows where it's gone. 2 weeks later, the content just disappeared forever. If you don't want your content to be like that, just make those 2 changes. It'll become so much easier. If you found this video useful and helpful, if you want to see more content just like this, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to hit subscribe so I know what to post more of. If you want to book a one-to-one call with me while I'm still taking these, there'll be a link down below. You can just apply for one of these calls. I'll review your business. I'll give you some actionable feedback as to how you can fix your content to generate more leads, more sales, and grow. If you want to book one of these, there'll be a link down below in the description to do that. and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.